Some quick background facts. My family and friends go on vacation together yearly. This has been a tradition since I was maybe 11 years old and I'm now 27. Each year my parents and the other family's parents alternate who plans and pays for the vacation. This year is our family friend's turn. I'm getting married in just a few weeks. We planned on going on our honeymoon towards the end of the year but have yet to put specific plans in place. I work for my dad and can get off whenever I'd like, but my fiance only has so much paid time off, so we're trying to be strategic with our plans. I told everyone I would likely have to skip the vacation this year because of my fiance's work situation and our honeymoon. Last week, my bonus dad came to me and told me he'd booked a room for me, and my girlfriend was more than welcome to come along too if she changed her mind, but that he was insistent on the family being together for the trip. Honestly, there's nothing that can beat the vacations we take. The places are great and the company is even greater. My sister is so busy these days and lives out of state, so I get to catch up with her. The family we travel with has 3 sons, some of my closest friends. Beyond all of that, you can't really beat an all-expenses-paid holiday. I told my fiancée about this and she's furious I didn't immediately shut it down. I told her that we weren't required to do family activities constantly and that this could easily serve as part 1 of our honeymoon. We haven't started planning, so there are no real plans to derail, and we can have our actual honeymoon as a first anniversary celebration, since we weren't planning on going right after our wedding anyway. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. The correct response was, I don't know, let me check with my fiancé first since we haven't set a date for the honeymoon yet. You need to pick your fiancé, who is your family now, over your natal family. If you can't figure out that you should include your fiancé in the honeymoon plans and that it should be something you decide together, then you're not ready to get married. No, the correct response would have been, I don't know, let me think about it. Then consult your fiancé. If your fiancé says no, don't tell your dad she said no, just say, I thought about it and no, I don't want to do that. Don't make your fiancé the bad guy. Instead, be her shield and be the leader of your new family unit. And it's perfectly normal to have your honeymoon away from family and in-laws. It made me cringe that OP says, honestly, nothing can beat the vacations we take. That poor fiancé. Or, like his bonus dad called her, that poor girlfriend, not fiancé. And it's not just the in-laws, it's the in-laws plus family and friends. For goodness sake, OP, can you not imagine the pressure on your possible future wife in that situation? You do know the purpose of a honeymoon, don't you? You just told your future wife where your priorities are, and she wasn't the main one. For her to be lucky, it should be his poor ex. She needs to get out. You are the idiot, and so is your bonus dad. He actually had the nerve to invite your fiancé to join the families on her honeymoon, LOL. Does bonus dad have a daughter he hopes you will marry? Bonus dad has 3 sons, no daughters. He's a little eccentric and gets a little hyper-focused on ideas. Planning vacations and spending time with immediate family is one of the highlights of his year every time. He also loves a good running joke, and there's one among our family of him plotting against my girlfriend to get his son and me back together. Before anyone asks, this was a years-old high school relationship that lasted 2 years at most before we went our separate ways for college. He also has nothing against my fiancée, and she's mostly in on the joke. He did insist I went and framed it within the context of the joke at first, and then went on to say he knew my fiancé's paid time off problem could make it hard for her to attend. And there it is. I was wondering what was being left out. Oh dear God, your poor fiancé. Do you really think she loves the joke of being told her fiancé should be with someone else? Because that sounds hysterical. It'd be so funny if OP attended this trip without his fiancé and got back together with bonus dad's son, wouldn't it? Ha ha. I'm sure the fiancé finds these jokes rightfully hilarious and not at all offensive. Jesus, time for bonus dad to learn about social boundaries and how not to be wildly inappropriate. This makes it so much worse, LOL. Bonus dad wasn't just being inconsiderate, he was being wildly disrespectful. You dated for 2 years. Good lord, that is a significant amount of time. Are you joking, OP? What is the amount of time your fiancé should consider it significant to you? Tell me this isn't real. There's no universe in which you seriously think this is in any way okay. You're deluded if you truly think that's a joke and that your fiancé is genuinely okay with that. I got married 4 months ago. I can't imagine how awful I'd feel to not even be my new partner's priority on the honeymoon. For context, my daughter Ella, a young teen, and I, 51 male, have always had a strained relationship. Her mother divorced me when she was a baby and did everything in her power to keep Ella away from me, even moving to a different state when Ella was 2. As a result, I only got a visitation of 8 days a month until she was old enough to start elementary school, and after that only school breaks and long weekends. When the visitation started, Ella made it clear that she hated visiting me. She would never listen to me, arguing with me about my rules or outright breaking them. When she was really little, I would pick her up for a visit from the airport, and she would cry and scream to stay with her mother and grandmother. I tried my best to cut her contact with her mother's side during my visitations, to foster our relationship without interference, but I wasn't always able to, and it led to her being much too dependent on them, while also allowing them to influence her against me. As she's gotten older, it's been even more difficult to get her to visit me where I live, so I've been visiting her instead. Thankfully, her mother pays for all my travel expenses. That brings us to now. I flew up to visit Ella. We went to the mall for an hour or so before closing time. It was one of our better visits. She was pleasant and talkative, but while we were walking through the food court, she saw some friends of hers. Apparently, the friends had graduated from middle school the year before, so she hadn't seen them in a while. All Ella wanted to do was hang out with them. She barely noticed me anymore, wanting to go to some store with the group, so I told her I was leaving. She asked me to stay, but I refused. Why should I stay when I wasn't her priority? I travelled all the way to see her, and the moment her friend showed up, she didn't care about me anymore. I didn't want to spend my time chaperoning while she socialised with them instead of me, so I left and went back to my hotel. Her mother called me the next day and yelled at me for leaving her at the mall. Apparently, the friends had been about to go, and since the mall was closing, Ella had to wait outside in the dark until her mother and grandmother could come to pick her up, which scared her. But her friends agreed to stay with her while she waited, so it wasn't like she was alone, and the mall was only about 10 minutes from her house, so she didn't have to wait long. She just really hurt me by choosing her friends over spending time with me, just like she chooses everyone else over me, and I didn't see the point in making an effort if she wasn't going to either. So, am I the idiot? Geez, you are the idiot, and a major one on so many levels. Who just abandons their child? She wanted to be with her friends and you at the same time. For goodness sake, she asked you to stay. You had a great opportunity to see your daughter with friends in her natural element, but you ruined it. You absolutely ruined that chance to show your daughter how much you care. You had a chance to cultivate your relationship, but instead you got caught up in your feelings and acted like a petulant child. It's no wonder why your daughter doesn't like spending time with you. I think he did show his daughter how much he cares. She got the answer loud and clear. He doesn't. He cares, just only about himself. OP, why can't you or don't you pay for your travel to see your child? You say your ex did everything she could to keep Ella away from you, except she pays for your travel costs to visit. Sounds like she didn't keep the kids away from you. She's facilitating your relationship in a way that costs her money. What am I missing? Yeah, the ex was the evil and OP is innocent. She did everything to keep my daughter from me, even moving to another state. Boo-hoo. Then OP shows himself to be the true magician by pulling the disappearing act all on his own. OP, it's time to end the wallowing self-pity party, step up and be an engaged and loving father to the extent you can with the time you have. I'm a female teen on a travel team for soccer. Usually when I have a game I go with my dad, but this one is during spring break, so my dad, stepmom, brother, younger teen, and stepsister, tween, are here, and we came 2 days early and are staying 3 days late. I like my stepsister, but she's high maintenance. She has nightmares and wakes up screaming. My stepmom has to spend an hour every night putting her to bed. She has accidents at night and she acts like she's a toddler, not a tween. We rented a 3-bedroom house for this trip, so my dad and stepmom got a room, my brother got a room, and I'm supposed to be sharing it with my stepsister. On top of her being normally high maintenance, she also has bronchitis and wakes up coughing in the middle of the night. The first night she slept in my dad and stepmom's room and I liked having the room to myself. Then the second night they put her to bed in my room. I hated having my stepmom here for so long and having to be quiet after 7. Her bedtime is 8, but at 7 they start bedtime stories and my stepmom lays down with her and rubs her back. And they want me to be quiet so she could calm down and go to sleep. I was FaceTiming my friend and ended up waking her up, so I told her to go to her mom, then I put all her stuff outside and locked the door. My mom took her to sleep with them and then came to yell at me the next morning because I didn't want to babysit her kid all night. She was going to take my stepsister and me out to eat and shop after my game, but she ended up skipping my game to take her instead. She ended up buying a tent and an air mattress for my stepsister and she's sleeping in their room, but my stepmom is still mad at me and my dad thinks I was rude and could have sucked it up for a few days. Am I the idiot for not sharing a room with my stepsister? Edit. I told my dad I didn't want to share with her. He said I could suck it up for a week and that she'll leave me alone. Not the idiot. All those things are your dad's and stepmom's problems, not yours. The purpose of the trip was for your game. Your performance should not be impacted by dealing with all this other stuff. Also, if your little brother could get his own room, they should have ensured you had one. I disagree, OP, you are the idiot. I was on your side until you intentionally woke her, FaceTime in another room, and kicked all her stuff out and locked the door. You could suck it up for a week. I absolutely don't get this attitude of never sharing a room with siblings, even on trips. It's so normal to do it outside of the US. You guys are not being abused for sharing a room with a sibling. I always shared rooms and even beds with my brother too. The difference is he never woke me up. If her sister has such delicate needs as to need total silence after 7 p.m, to have her back rubbed for an hour before bed, and to wake up still screaming throughout the night, she doesn't need to be sharing with a 15-year-old who's there to play soccer. OP needs to be able to sleep. I think OP clearly didn't care much for their younger stepsister and used every excuse she could think of to justify her rude behavior. When your stepsister had trouble sleeping the night before, her mom kept her in her bed, so clearly no one at any point made you babysit the kid all night. You just didn't share a room. You didn't want to share a room, so you intentionally did loud activities while your stepsister was asleep. Then, when she inevitably woke up, you threw her stuff out into the hall and locked her out. Not wanting to share a room? Reasonable. Calling someone else high maintenance and then being the one to throw a childish hissy fit for not getting your way? Idiot behavior. I'm a 45-year-old woman married to my husband Fred for 20 years. We have 4 children, including my 24-year-old stepson, James. When Fred and I first met, he was still married to James's mother, Lily. We fell in love, but we didn't do anything physical until after their divorce was final. I met James when he was 5 years old, and over the almost 20 years that I've known him, he has never liked me. Despite my best efforts to build a relationship with him, he's never shown any interest in getting to know his siblings or me. When James turned 18, he left home, and while he occasionally called and spent time with Fred, he would never do so with our children or me. Recently, I asked Fred to include our children when he spends time with James, but James hasn't spoken to him since. Now my mother-in-law, who has always favoured Lily over me, has called me and accused me of being the idiot for hurting James and Fred's relationship even further. I understand that my request may have hurt James's feelings, but after almost 2 decades of trying to build a relationship with him, I have exhausted all other options. I love my husband and our children, and I want them to feel included and valued in our family. It's unfair of James to exclude them from his life with Fred simply because he has a strained relationship with me. Families need to come together and support one another, especially during difficult times. James is a part of our family and I want him to know that he's welcome to spend time with us, but not at the expense of my children's feelings or our family dynamic. I understand that James may be hurt, but I hope he can see that our family is important to us and that we want him to be a part of it. You are the idiot. You believe families should come together and support one another, all while ripping a family apart. Oh, okay. Let them have their own time. Stop being a jealous old stepmom. No, wait, it's different. You see, they didn't have intimacy, just an emotional affair. She just encouraged his affection and convinced him to leave his wife for her. So she didn't split up the family, it just kinda happened, you know? And she wants her kids to have one-on-one time with their father, but he can't because that's different. Family units are so important and that's why she wants to spend family time together. So important she made a married man resolutely assured that if he left his pre-existing family for her, that would be okay. But again, it's different because that family unit wasn't hers, so that clearly doesn't matter. In life, we have rules for normal people, then rules for mistresses, and they're different, you see? Illogically, hypocritically, callously different. Capiche? LOL this. The only family that matters to her is her ill-obtained husband and the kid she gave birth to. Everyone else must bend over for her wishes. You had an emotional affair with James's dad, and their marriage broke up. Of course James wants nothing to do with you. Let your husband have time with his son alone. It's the least you could do. My girlfriend has OCD. One symptom she experiences is doing everything in fives. Her mother passed away in March 2018. My girlfriend goes to therapy, and in January of this year, when she brought up getting a tattoo for the 5th anniversary of her mother's death, I suggested she talk about it with her therapist. After doing so, she said that her therapist also didn't think it was a good idea, as she believed that the drive behind her wanting to get the tattoo was her mental issue rather than the actual want of getting it. However, my girlfriend still went ahead and booked the appointment. After talking with a couple of friends about it, they all agreed that it wasn't a good idea to make such a permanent decision, which her OCD had purely fueled. I wouldn't be so hesitant if she had somewhat recovered from it. However, she has yet to make any progress. I emailed the tattooist, we have each other's passwords, and cancelled her appointment. I told her an hour before her appointment that it had been cancelled, and as she'd booked the last slot for the day, she couldn't get it done. I knew she would be upset, but I didn't realise how upset she was going to be. It's been a couple of weeks, and it's honestly crazy how she's reacted to it. But I'm more than certain, and so are our friends, that once she recovers, she'll be really grateful in the future. It's clear that was flared up a bit, and she's aware of that too, and has described it as making her physically sick when she thinks she'll never be able to get a tattoo on the 5th anniversary. So, am I the idiot? I emailed the tattooist. And that's where you cross the line. You're allowed to be concerned for her. You're allowed to discourage her from doing something you think she might regret. You're okay for even flat out telling her it would be a mistake. You are not okay making decisions for her. She's a grown adult and no matter the reason can get a tattoo. You are her partner, not her father. Cancelling her appointment without her consent was beyond inappropriate. But you didn't even do that. Instead, you broke into her email and pretended to be her. You're not helping her, no matter your intentions, by controlling her life. Agree. If the girlfriend's pattern is doing things in fives, then the natural conclusion to this being OCD-driven would be to get 5 tattoos on the 5th anniversary. If that were the case, I'd be concerned. But it was 1 tattoo, not 5, and how does OP know what the therapist thinks of the tattoo? Is he going to therapy with her, or is the therapist telling him? If so, does the girlfriend permit this? There are so many red flags that OP is controlling. Yeah, you are the idiot, OP, and you need to educate yourself better, and she should dump your butt at 05:55 AM on May the 5th and be done with you. It's not your body nor your brain, and honestly, none of your business. This was for her mother, and tattoos can be covered or removed if needed. She deserves a better partner.